All right, 7 yellow peeps. Happy Wednesday morning. So this morning, since we're all together today, we are going to do a little CER review from last year, preview to the year ahead, and just clarify some expectations on CERs in 7th grade ELA. So as I'm talking today, I am going to be dropping a secret word, and I'll let you know when the secret word is happening. In your Wednesday folder, right here in your discussion post, you have to submit the secret word to this post. And that will signal to Mrs. Millett and I that you did, in fact, listen to the video and make sure that you were engaged. So, let's start it up. All right, CERs in 7 yellow. So you had your first exposure to CERs this year through the Extraordinaires project. So everybody has started it. Cohort B finished yesterday and Cohort C will finish tomorrow, but everyone has at least done the graphic organizer and looked at our model example. Now, we know that when you come from your various places previous to 7th grade, a lot of people have some negative connotations or feeling towards CERs. And so Mrs. Millett and I really just ask if you give us a chance, and we're going to straighten CERs out for you, and I think that by the end of this year, you will find that they're not so bad and plenty manageable. So, in the words of, I don't know if any of you watched New Girl, maybe you do, maybe you don't. You can let me know in the comments. But all my New Girls fans, we know we got this. We're in this together, and you can do it. All right, so somebody actually drew the pillar on their desk for their do now on, what day was that? Monday. And I thought that that was so awesome because it really showed that you were thinking about your organization in Sherwood and showing a connection to the way you organize a paragraph here at Oak. So shout out to Dan K for our inspo on this slide. Many of you are familiar with the pillar, which is here on the left. And it's kind of a more basic style of writing and something that's really appropriate for 5th and 6th grade. But what we do in 7th grade is we take this one main idea paragraph that I have a red box around, and we're taking off the training wheels, and we're going to expand that into something a little more specific. So your main idea will be where your claim is, and your details and evidence, your detail boxes right here are translated to evidence and reasoning in 7th grade. So we're taking off the training wheels, we're upgrading from a pillar into something called a CER. Now, I don't know if any of you are seeing these on your social media accounts, these how it started and how it's going, tweets and Instagram posts. So I have 2 down here. Shout out to my soccer peeps. I tried to add a soccer guy. And Ellie Goulding. So how it started, this is where we're at right now. Our claims are about 1 to 2 sentences. We're doing 1 to 2 sentences of evidence. So in this case, we actually are using observations and inferences. We haven't even started with quotes yet, but you will today. And then we're doing some reasoning that's about 3 to 4 sentences long. So very manageable, 1 single paragraph, 5 to 8 sentences. Next step is we're going to grow by a couple baby steps and keep our claim 1 to 2 sentences, and our evidence will become quotes from a book. And our reasoning is going to grow to 5 to 8 sentences. All right, we're building. Then how it's going, where we're going towards in this school year, is you are going to have an intro paragraph, 1 body paragraph CER, a 2nd body paragraph CER, and a 3rd body paragraph CER. So if we go back a couple slides, one here, each of these sections right here between your intro and your conclusion are going to be little mini CERs. So they're going to be quick, short, and sweet, very similar to what you already do to organize a paragraph. So CERs don't have to be long and painful. P.S. Did anyone notice my math error in the then section? Whoopsies! Okay, so we are now diverging, going on separate paths for science and ELA writing. So we started the year to show high expectations across both subjects, but now this is where we go through different paths. So in science and in ELA, you have a claim that is 1 to 2 sentences. In science, that looks like an answer to the question your experiment posed, your hypothesis, and in ELA, it's your topic sentence or your opinion or maybe you're stating how a character changed from beginning to end, but it's your main big idea, your thought, your original idea. We call that a thesis or a claim. Next up, you have your evidence. Now, you should know this from our work in class this week, but in science, your evidence should be in the form of observations from maybe it was a lab that you did, data from an experiment, previous knowledge about the topic, or if you're reading a research article, then it could be a quote. But in ELA, it is straightforward, 100%, always a quote from the text or passage. So from this point forward, you are always using a quote unless the assignment says otherwise. In extraordinaires, because we didn't have words on our cards, we actually had to use our observations and inferences, and that's why we kind of were doing a science-style CER, but going forwards, we're going full quote mode. And then in the reasoning section for science, you just write a couple sentences to explain your evidence and how it related to the question you posed, the experience you had, the experiment you did. But in ELA, it's more long-winded. This is where we're going to connect our evidence to our claim and we're going to elaborate. And you do this by picking out keywords to explain, inferencing about the author's purpose, making a connection to the greater picture. We're going to have lots of strategies this year for how to grow that reasoning section. All right, so one more time, claim, evidence, and reasoning. Claim is where you state your opinion and you answer the question of the prompt. So this is where you restate the prompt and add in your own ideas. Your evidence is not opinion-based. See this part right here? That's so important. It is not opinion-based. It has to be a fact. It could be from an observation, a set of data, facts, quotes, or a reliable source of information. But most importantly, evidence is not an opinion. And then our reasoning is where we summarize, we add to, expand, and connect to a greater picture. In science, it might be more logical and explain the steps of your experiment and justify your hypothesis. But in ELA, we try to connect to the world around us, the theme of the book, other characters, etc. So here's one example. Strong reading skills are essential for students. Now that's an opinion. Not everyone might agree with it. I don't know how you couldn't, but in general, it's an opinion. Here's our evidence. According to DoSomething.org, of the juveniles who face trial in the juvenile court system, nearly 85% are illiterate, and that means they can't read. So this is a fact, it has a statistic, and it does back up the fact that strong reading skills are really important for students. This shows a strong relationship between illiteracy and crime, emphasizing reading skills in school can not only change a student's academics, but his or her life as well. So we're showing how this quote about people not being able to read and students ending up in the juvenile system actually connects to this comment and opinion about strong reading skills being essential for student success. All right, now here are some sentence starters. When you are doing your evidence, you can't just put your quote floating out there in the cold, and we're going to talk more about this throughout the year. You need a little sentence starter, or you need to ICE your quote. Introduce, incite, and explain. So you probably did that acronym in Sherwood. But in other words, before you do a quote, you have to have something that says something like, sorry, that was a lot of somethings. According to the text, for example, the text states on page yada yada yada, it says, etc. And then you put your quote right after. If they're hanging out on their own, we call those floating quotes, and we don't want those. All right, now most importantly, after each sentence of your CER, you have to remember to ask yourself if it supports your claim. It's really important that these CER paragraphs stay focused and organized and on topic. I'm going to pause here so you have a second to look over this graphic. All right, let's keep going. Stop. Okay, here is where your secret word is coming. Miss Meany's favorite food in the morning is oatmeal. So today our secret word is oatmeal. I'll remind you of that again at the end of the video. So if you're listening, Write that down somewhere, and then that's how you prove you listened to the video today. All right, the last things we're going to do before you go off and do your work today is we are going to analyze 2 CER samples together. All right, example 1. Without a doubt, every week should have a 3-day weekend for teachers and students. This is because it would provide more sufficient time for students to engage in their passions outside of school and for everyone to recharge. In an article published by the reputable Business Insider, it stated, "With fewer working days, people may procrastinate less and have more time to focus on the things that they enjoy on a 3-day weekend." When students are procrastinating, it indicates that the work is either not a preferred task or it's something that they don't understand. The further we procrastinate, the harder it will be to do the work once the information is too far gone. Additionally, students might be more motivated to get work done, and school could become more of a preferred task if they have one more weekend day to recharge their bodies and brains before they're back to school. Therefore, the benefits of a reduced work and school week clearly could lead to a positive change in learning habits. All right, that's my CER. So let's take a look at this. Now, if I were grading this, these are some of the things that I would note. The first thing I noted is I tried really hard not to use any personal pronouns so that I could come off like I had a really confident tone. So I didn't use I, you, me, or my. Also, my first sentence clearly stated my opinion in a brief overview of why I felt that way, without using I. Next, I used evidence from a reliable website, Business Insider, and the quote supports my idea, so I made sure that I picked a piece of evidence that supported my stance on this issue. So my quote was about, "With fewer working days, people can procrastinate less and have more time to focus on things they enjoy." And my claim was that every week should be a 3-day weekend because it provides sufficient time for students to engage in things outside of school and it lets people recharge. This is kind of a tricky one and a see who gets this kind of question. Does anyone know what this arrow is pointing to? If you do, email me the answer for a sticker or several. We'll learn about those more this year. The next thing I did is I focused on a key word from the quote and connected it back to my claim. So one big word that jumped out of the quotation I picked was procrastinate. So in my following sentences, I explained what that looks like in school, as well as why procrastination is dangerous and how it connects to the bigger picture. So a good strategy is if you're struggling with your reasoning, zone in on one word and try to think about how it connects to the big picture and reconnect it back to your claim. Finally, you'll see I added a transition word right here. Additionally, it's always good to add those in throughout your reasoning. And I explained the impact of this 3-day weekend in relation to the claim and in the quote, as well as the bigger picture. So I said it's really healthy, we should do this. Last but not least, I pulled it together with a closing sentence to reiterate the connection. So my closing sentence was, therefore, the benefits of a reduced work and school week clearly could lead to a positive change. All right, here's my second example. I think that we should only have 2-day weekends. A new study from Oxford University suggests a 4-day working week could make people happier and more productive. 2-day weekends are enough time, and we don't need more time than that. All right, so let's take a look at how we think I did on this one. Firstly, I did use a personal pronoun. I used I, and you want to avoid using those personal pronouns in your writing because it creates room for doubt. My claim states my opinion, which is good, but it doesn't give me a little preview to why I feel that way. Here's an example of my floating quote. So I didn't do any of those sentence starters that says anything like in the text it says, or according to the author it says. I left it out in the cold. It needs a little intro. Yes, the evidence is a quote, but take a second and read my claim and read my evidence. Do those two things align? My claim says, no, we don't need 3-day weekends, but my quote says, yes, we do need 3-day weekends. All right, now let's take a look at my reasoning. The first thing is, oh, I see the number 2. always type out the full word for a number under 100. So it should have T